All right. Welcome to the American Canaries Podcast number 4. Unfortunately, Norwich has only scored 3 goals, not 4 goals. So joining me today is the founder of American Canaries, Mark Foster, and our special guest, Matt Roberts. And Matt's going to tell us a little about his experience with Premier League mornings at the LA Coliseum and some other things about his fanhood, where he's from originally, while he started following Norwich, some of his favorite players, favorite matches, whatever. So let's hand it over to you, Matt. And then after that, I'll talk a little bit about my appearance on the Premier League Fanzone. You know, it's up there. There's not a whole lot to talk about. But go ahead, Matt.
Okay, well,
the floor is yours.
As Ken just said, my name's Matt, and I'm probably the only Scouse Canary in the world. I don't know of any others, that's for sure. There certainly wasn't any at school when I went to school. And that lovely title was bestowed on me by my father, who was from Norwich. He was raised in Norwich, so obviously supported them, because everyone who comes from Norwich does support them. And as a young kid, that was instilled into me. My brother, somehow for him, got an escape, and he chose Man City, and he had like 40 years of hurt, but then they were bought by the Saudis, and now he's in the Champions League final every week. So he got the long end of the straw, and I got the short one.
My son actually is a Man City fan.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, lucky lad. And the way we see on these social media forums about, it seems that Norwich fans are either one way or the other with regards to Mr. Farke, and it looks like it's a vast majority of them want him gone, which is, to me, is very sad. The fickleness of football fans, in particular Norwich fans, it knows no end to me. It's 2 months ago and he was the Messiah, and now all of a sudden he's the worst football manager in the world, and everybody wants him out, and it really, really gets my back up. If you think back to that Huddersfield game, which was about 4 or 5 months ago, when they played the best half of football I've seen anyone play, let alone Norwich. They were bloody brilliant. And I don't think he can lose his players that quick. But we'll come back to that after. Going back to me, I first saw the Canaries in 1968 at Carrow Road, when my dad took me over there against, of all teams, Mark, it was Millwall, tell your missus. A 2-1 win. In the early mid-70s, my ultimate hero was, what we could do with him now, was Ted McDougall. I don't know if you guys have heard of him.
I've heard of some of the names.
He was the First Division's leading scorer one year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. That was under John Bond. And then Viv Busby was another hero when I was in that same era. He only played a handful of games, but he was a good centre forward. And then, of course, Grant Holt and Kevin Keelan. I remember my mum back in England in the early 70s. Most men wore anoraks with a yellow stripe down the sleeve, and my mum took that off because we weren't very wealthy. Made it into a number 1 on the back of a green shirt and presented with me my own Kevin Keelan shirt. So I had a number 1 off my dad's anorak down the back.
Nice.
Yeah. So we haven't had much success throughout our life. Trophies wise, we've won a couple of promotions and we've won the League Cup, but that's about it. But we've got to hang in there, haven't we? These American football fans who, when their team moves to a new city and then people in the new city start following them as though they've supported them all their lives. Similar thing with LAFC here. They formed 2 years ago, and the ultras end at one end of the ground. You'd think they'd been following LFC. They are fanatical. But I think, what were they doing 3 years ago before LAFC existed? What did they do then? It's weird. To me, a football team, you've got a football team, you've got a football team for life. You can't go switching and changing. So we're just unfortunate that we've got Norwich, little old Norwich, as everyone keeps calling them.
To talk about the MLS, so the MLS support is really interesting. Some cities really support it, and the fans seem to be very, very, like ultras. They're very, very.
Yeah, Seattle. I remember being in Seattle when there was a game on there, and they had like 45.
Seattle's interesting. That looks like in spite of the fact they play in an actual, American football stadium. That seems like a great atmosphere. to watch something happen. Sounds like my wife and daughter are home. That's fine. They're not going to be home on this. And then you have Atlanta. It's like, okay, Atlanta has a huge fan base in the indoors at the Georgia Dome, which is just stunning. I mean, they don't have to worry about downsizing their stadium to 15,000 or so. They could put 50,000 in there. You know, it's just bizarre.
Even the LA, they had the Galaxy, obviously, and even when I came over to the States when Beckham was playing, and they'd struggle to fill the stadium then. It only holds 20, 23, 24,000, or it did then, and they'd struggled. So LA isn't really a hotbed, but I don't know where, as I say, all these LAFC fans come from, because they're getting 20,000 odd as well now.
Well, they didn't come from the Chivas supporters. I mean, we know that because Chivas didn't have. That was the worst idea anybody ever came up with. Let's start a Chivas annex in Southern California, and the Chivas Corps didn't even show up. I mean, we get Chivas exhibitions, probably one or two a year at the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, and there's more fans at that than the Chivas MLS team ever had.
Yeah,
when they were in MLS.
So they were still going when I came over, and I went to see them, and you're right, there was about 2,000 there.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So what were some of your favorite matches you've attended at Carrow Road?
Well, actually, coming from Liverpool, which is the extreme far side of the country, and back then, in those days, it was a 6-7 hour journey to get to Norwich by car, and I was a kid anyway, so probably up to the age of 20, I only went to Carrow Road about 3 times, to be honest. One was Leicester, which was on Match of the Day, when they won 1-0, thanks to a Neil O'Donnell goal. And nobody will have heard of him because he played about 3 games, I think, as substitute. Peter Shilton was in goal for Leicester. I remember that, seeing him in his all-white kit. Most of the times, I'd go and my dad would take me to Old Trafford, Everton, Man United, Man City. In each season, we'd go and Stoke, and all the local Premier or First Division teams as it was then. I remember seeing the great Liverpool side of the early 70s. We went there. I would have been 12, I think, and we won 3-1. And it was an absolute. Ted McDougall scored, Suggett and Peters, and it was something the world couldn't believe what had happened. Norwich had gone to Anfield and beaten Liverpool 3-1. The great Keegan Toshak team. So that I'd say that was probably one of the highlights.
It's not going to happen this season.
No, I don't think so.
No. Now with the crowd makeup.
But Liverpool were as superior to the rest then as they are now, and Norwich beat them 3-1.
Okay, so tell us a little about the experience of going to the Coliseum. Like, when did you have to wake up, and how far away are you from the Coliseum?
From downtown LA. I live in Long Beach, which is on the coast.
I've been to Long Beach. I've been to Long Beach twice.
Right.
The second time I was there, I actually stayed in the Queen Mary one night, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm on a video. I'm doing a podcast. My daughter. Hi. Let's say hi.
Hi.
I'm doing a podcast. Here, come on camera. You can wave.
Hello.
Howdy. Are you a canary?
Hi.
No, she's not. She's a theater kid.
I'm theater, not soccer fan. He is.
She's a theater kid. Okay,
He's
we're doing this live.
Whatever.
Bye.
Whatever.
Bye.
Well,
Normally Mark's the one with people busting. I'm not going to edit that out. Her calling me a rear.
Well, my wife's just come in and she went to the fan fest with me, so she can give her 2 pence worth in a minute. But no, she's shouting no from the kitchen. It was early. It was a 4:30 game, the Chelsea game, as you know.
Right.
And as you know, we're 3 hours behind you. 3 hours behind or 3 hours?
Yes, 3. It's 3.
Yeah, three behind Ken, 2 me.
Yeah. When we saw that, I'm like, oh God, we're going to ask the people in California to get there at 4:30.
Yeah, because the club got a hold of us.
I'm impressed that more than one person was there. When I saw, like, oh, there's actually people who are there.
That's not the worst of it, Ken. We left the house we got an Uber at 3:00. There was my wife and I and a friend, we got to, it's about 40-minute drive to the Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
We got, so it's an expensive Uber. We got there, and it's one of about the 5 days in a year when it was peeing down with rain. And the line stretched as far as you could see, because they were going through every single person's COVID and matching it up to their ID.
Right.
So we walked around this to the back of this line. It must have been a quarter of a mile long.
Wow.
And this was about 20 to 4 in the morning. I'm thinking, this queue's not moving very fast, and the game's kicking off in 50 minutes. And I was getting real agitated that we weren't going to get in for the kickoff. In the meantime, we were getting drenched. I was the only full kit wanker in the stadium. I had my socks on and everything. And we got in when the game was 2 minutes old, so it could have been a lot worse. And we went in, and there was a big stage where they were doing the main broadcast from. It was actually outside the Coliseum.
Right.
And then there's probably 6 or 7 big screens for later in the day when they had all the games on.
Mm-hmm.
But all the screens were showing the one game. And we saw a little handful of Canaries watching on one screen on their own, because the main screen by the main stage was just Chelsea everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. So I went over and sort of said hello to these Canaries, and we stood and watched the game in the peeing rain and then after 18 minutes, I think the first one went in. And then come second half, it was getting a bit embarrassing, really. Humiliating.
Well, I will admit it was so bad, and I had stuff to do that I was like, okay, I have things that I have to do. I need to cram it in for time. At 3-0, I said, okay, that's it. I turned it off, and then I had to take stuff to the landfill and do something else. So I didn't watch the second half.
Right,
and I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, and it's been well documented about the lack of effort that people are saying, and it was so noticeable, and that's what was embarrassing about it, really. If they were getting, Chelsea are a brilliant side. Obviously, they just won the European Champions League, but the way they were standing off them and letting them trample all over them was a bit much to take.
How many other Norwich fans were there?
I say there was about 10 all told. So some of them are on the American. Is it the American Canaries or the AmeriCanaries? AmeriCanaries. Yeah.
It's basically the American Canaries, but we combined it.
We got rid of the N.
Yeah, so
right.
it's the AmeriCanaries.
Yeah, AmeriCanaries.
But it's basically it's
which was brilliant, Mark. But there was a group of the group that were there. They said they all worked for the sponsor that was on.
Yeah.
Right.
The Best Fiends folks.
Yeah.
They've
been over to Norwich recently.
Huh?
One of the lads was 6'9", so we all felt safe, and we sheltered from the rain behind him.
That's great.
Phil, his name was. He was a lovely lad.
That's great.
So when that finished, then because it was raining, Rebecca came on and she says, because you've all been so good standing in the rain, we're going to open the bar, and it's a free bar for an hour. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, we started slugging ale down us because the bar opened. And then come by.
Did they have good beer, or was it just a mass-produced crap?
It was tinned IPA. That when the bar stopped serving for free, it was about $12 for a little can. But it's the same as everything, every sporting event, from what I can see, and concert. You pay. Where did we go last week? Somewhere. It was $16. I went to see a band called Volbeat at the Hollywood Palladium. It was $16 for a pint of beer.
Wow.
And it was like Budweiser and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I'm used to going to the Baltimore Orioles games, and their prices are anywhere from like $7 to $10, and I even get a discount as a season ticket holder.
Right, but they are. California's getting so expensive out here. So after the game finished, then they've got I got a couple of free silk. They had one booth that was just giving away merchandise.
Cool.
I don't know if you've seen the pictures that I posted, but I got my finger, the canary finger, and a couple of silk scarves, which managed to keep my wife's hair from frizzing up because she wrapped it around her head. And there was a couple of games going on, and Alan Shearer was there. It was good to see him because he's an English. He is a legend. He's I think he's the Premier League's highest ever scorer, isn't he?
I think that's true. Yeah, that's a pretty good. That's a pretty nice get.
Yeah, and Robbie Earl, He actually lives in Long Beach, Robbie. So we've seen him in the pub here a few times, just at our local.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a lovely guy, and he chatted to us, and Tim Howard was there, and Robbie Mustoe. Fortunately, that guy from Gentlemen in Blazers, whatever it's called. What's that show?
Men in Blazers.
Men in Blazers.
Yeah, he wasn't there till the next day, I don't think, so I missed him, thank God.
Raj and Davey. Well.
Yeah, Roger D.
Yeah, Roger is the one who's much funnier than the other one.
Yeah, there's always a straight man, isn't there? Yeah.
Well, Roger's clearly the comedic guy. You know, he's. I think he's actually an American citizen now.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he proudly. I was like, hey, look, I'm an American citizen. He was promoting that fact. He didn't hide it. He was like, hey, guess what? I'm now an American citizen. It happened in the last year and a half or so.
Yeah, it's been fairly recent.
Yeah.
So he can vote now. That's basically the only difference. The only difference between being a green card holder and having a citizenship is you can vote.
Yeah.
And I haven't, in 13 years, I haven't come across a politician in America I'd vote for anyway. So I'm going to stick with my green card. Yeah.
Oh God, that reminds me. I just finished watching the HBO series The Wire, just today, and that's based in Baltimore. And in the last season, there's like a reporter at a press conference. I'm like, hey, I had to go back. You know, a guy's name is Ken. Also, he was a county executive, and he ran for lieutenant governor. I was like, I didn't know he was in The Wire. He was at a press conference asking a question. And I was like, wait a second, that's definitely him. You know, so just.
Right. So within an hour of the game finishing, I got over my depression, and we had fun for the rest of the morning. Basically, we met so many fans from different teams, not just Chelsea. I mean, by 10 o'clock, by 7 o'clock in the morning, when it actually got light and it stopped raining miraculously, there was fans from every team you could think of, and every game on the TV. It was a really great morning. I'd recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, they had it in. I think they had it in DC, but by the time I learned a couple of years ago, by the time I learned about it, it was too late to get in, to make the reservations. Then I think it was Philadelphia. It was somewhere. I don't even know where it was in Washington.
Austin, they've had, yeah. All the others have been on the East Coast apart from Austin. And
the Austin one.
This was the sixth one, I think.
Yeah, it was just kind of, I mean, honestly, them doing the Premier League mornings with a 7:30 match is just brutal. You would tend to think they would have chosen one where there wasn't a 7:30 one.
Yeah, i.e. 4:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, for you, I mean, the 10 o'clock, okay, that's 7 o'clock. It's a little more reasonable, might be when people might be, waking up.
There was
one.
Well,
I think Norwich was just unlucky that they were the early game for the weekend that they decided to have it on the West Coast, is what it came down to.
Yeah.
So.
There was a guy, there was a West Indian guy, a Jamaican who I was chatting to. He'd flown over from New York that morning just for the fan fest.
Wow.
He was flying back that night. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, they had it in New York. Wasn't New York the first one they had it? In Times Square?
Probably, yeah. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Times Square. Matt, you're mentioning the COVID stuff. 3 weeks ago, my daughter and I were in New York City, and we saw 3 performances of 2 Broadway shows. We saw one twice because one's all improv, and it worked really well. Where we had the ID, and the COVID cards, and it wasn't really, any sort of backup, but also it works a little bit better. But we were kind of used to that. Yeah,
but they had one entrance and one girl on the entrance checking cards. If they sent someone down the line to do it, I just thought it could have been moving quicker.
Yeah, but both theaters had at least two, possibly 3 lines because they knew it was going to take longer. They were doing multiple lines with doors going in. So that worked. I was a little concerned, but that worked that work fine. But having only one person, they really should have had multiple lines, especially if they're like, all right, this is what's going on. I got to make sure you guys are cool with everything.
Well, I got an email about a day later asking for my opinions on it. So I voiced that one, saying you need to get more people on the gate to ensure people get in for the game that they've got up to go and see, basically.
Good. I always do that. I have a Master's of Science in Business from Johns Hopkins, and whenever someone sends me a, hey, how was it? Give your opinion. I'm always giving my opinion. Even if something was, this is phenomenal. This is great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that, and whatever, because I always like, oh, how was it? I'm always trying to fill out one of those things because they never know. Basically, one of the things that I learned is, let's say you go to a restaurant and they have, oh, how was our service? Generally, you're going to go, oh, this is horrible. You forgot this and that. Well, if it's great, you should still fill out that card or whatever it is. It's just if it's great. Also, if it's something where everyone thinks, oh, we did a good job. Well, not really. They think they're doing a good job until you tell them. So I'm glad you filled that out. It's like, hey, here are some suggestions on how to make this better. But clearly having more than one person checking the, vaccination card, that's a phenomenal idea.
Yeah, it would have been. Anyway, I can hear my wife shouting, "You grumpy old git," from the kitchen there. I was in the line complaining, like, bloody hell, they better hurry up in a minute, they better let us in. Calm down. Anyway, we got it. So I'd recommend it to everyone, Ken. If it comes to your town, I'd seriously recommend it. If only to meet other like-minded soccer fans like us, basically.
Yeah, it was. Well, hopefully they'll do places like, you tend to think they'd pick Chicago as, a major Midwestern area. Or maybe, they'll go to the soccer hotbeds of Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah. Hopefully
do something in the Power and Light District or somewhere like that.
Yeah, hopefully they'll go to the places that have it. I mean, seeing what's going on with the Braves with that gigantic area with the Battery, that would be perfect for them to have something there, as opposed to in downtown. That looks like that would be a great area for them if they chose something to do in Atlanta.
What do you think? What do you two guys think of the pundits they have on? The two Robbies, Tim Howard, Higginbottom. What do you think of those people?
I try not to listen to any of them.
Don't you? No, I try to listen because they're all pros, so they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. They are, and for me, they kind of give a little nod to Norwich, and they'll pat us on the head when we're doing well, and they'll be, oh, that's too bad when we're doing poorly, and it's like, okay. I mean, I don't know that they're saying a whole lot that we don't already know.
Right.
No.
Is the thing.
Yeah.
So
go on, Ken, sorry.
No, I like the people that they have on there. I think the Robbies do a good job. I think having Tim Howard gives them a different perspective because of a goalie who's played in the World Cup, so I think having a goalie telling you, or a keeper telling you his perspective is really interesting. That's something that they didn't have. So, and he's, very comfortable speaking. I actually saw him train, was it before the World Cup, 2010, 2014? I don't even know. They came to the University of Maryland, and Maryland's a huge, the University of Maryland soccer has got the best coach in the country. So they trained there.
Right.
Sometime in September. So I remember seeing him train with all the goalies and stuff like that. So I like that he brings a different perspective than the other guys do.
Yeah.
So I think they're fine. I do myself have an issue with sometimes the analyst who is doing, when we're streaming, because, even though
on the big games, the ones with Lee Dixon or
the big games. So when it's streaming, we've had Effin Akoko way too many times this year. Yeah, I know he's a former Norwich player, but God, he is so annoying sometimes.
Gary
it's
Birtles is another one. Yeah.
It's like, oh, if someone goes up and heads the ball, well, he really should have done better there. And it's like, really? The guy's jumping in the air. He doesn't know exactly, where the goal sort of is, or where the goalie is, and he's going up and he's doing this with his head, and you're complaining because the ball should have been 2 feet to the left or 2 feet to the right. I mean, he always, it's just annoying. He thinks that whatever skill they have, it should have been perfect, and he's
overcritical.
He's overcritical. He's overcritical. Like when I watch, I'm like, oh, Norwich put a ball on goal. Great. Okay, that could have,
These days, yes, time for a lap of honor when we get a corner.
Yeah, I'm thrilled when something like that happened, but he's so critical sometimes. So, with the
going back to my favorite games, I was at Goodison when he scored 4. We can't forget that one. When he scored 4 against Everton.
Nice.
Yeah, he wasn't being critical that day. He was brilliant.
Nice. But he's like, I'm like, God, why is he Do
you know he's actually an African prince?
That I did not know. From which country?
I'm not sure which country. I'm not sure which country he played for. But he was born into. Yeah, that's true. Actually, you Google him. He's very well spoken, isn't he? He sounds like
he is, but he's just a bit aggravating. Whatever it is. Oh, he should have done better there. Like he wasn't on the call. He wasn't on the call was it yesterday, where it was like when Pookie had that shot and Pookie just, hit it for first touch.
Just wide.
Pookie a lot where he gets the ball and then it's like, okay, I got to do a couple touches and set it up, get my angle. By that time, then the defenders have moved and blocked the shot. So he just hit it first time. Great. I was happy he hit it. Wasn't a goal, but that's more what you want to see out of him instead of being, finessing the ball and stuff like that than taking his angle away. So Norwich has.
We still love him though, don't we?
He's still the guy, he's still, want to go. Okay, so we're already all right. So I'll tell you a little bit about my experience, and we'll talk about what we've seen and what we think should happen in the future. So I did it Wednesday. So it was 9 o'clock in the morning. I did the Premier League Fanzone. So the Premier League Fanzone. So the Global Canaries, who are the Asian Canaries, was interesting because it's like, oh, the Asian Canaries, and the 2 guys are based in Thailand. Well, they are as white as all 3 of us. I expected them to be Thai.
Right.
They're 2 brothers.
And we have some Thai, honest to God, Thai Canaries. Tor, I can't remember his last name. Couldn't pronounce it if I did have it in front of me. But yeah, Tor's been on a lot of our Global Canaries chats over the years. Yeah,
so it was so they did the show on Monday, and I saw a little bit of their appearance, and I commented on it, and then because I said, because they chimed in before I did Monday, and then the Premier League people was like, oh, well, how could you do it Wednesday? Sure, I can do it Wednesday, and then they arranged for it, and then Wednesday. So basically, you got the email with the link, and they want to do Skype. I'm using a work computer, and Skype is no longer supported, but Zoom is officially supported. So they gave me the Zoom link. So I was able to watch the show through Zoom up until my segment, and then they basically turned off the link like 5 minutes after my segment.
Right. And what did you do? What was it?
So there was a Premier League Fanzone, so it's on Peacock. They do it every day for an hour.
I think the show, it's produced in the UK because the emails that I've been getting are coming from there. It's a BBC production. It's a part of, I think it's BBC. It's the Premier League media sets it up. And so, but it's based over there, which is why we have to have these mid-morning over in the U.S. calls on this, which is why I haven't been able to do it. And it's all set up over there. But Peacock, I think, because they get all of the Premier League programming that's produced over there, they pick it up.
Right. So the emails basically came from the Premier League itself. So it was people who were working on producing content for the Premier League. So it's the fan zone. So the first part of the show, people had tweeted in questions, and the host is Ian. I forgot what Ian's name was, and then Stuart Downing was the player.
Right.
And Stuart Downing was the player. So Ian, he was very good. I forgot his last one. I'd have to look it up. And they're on a board, and they're going through different questions. Some of the questions were just tweeted. Others were, we have a tweeted question from Bob, Bob in Senegal or something. And then they would go to that person live, and that person would ask the question, then they would answer it. So, they went back and forth.
So they came to you, did they, and asked you the question? Asked you a question?
Well, I didn't have any questions. I was just watching the show. Basically, they said log on in 20 minutes. I just logged on the beginning and watched it. And then the segment was, okay, there's 5 winless teams in the Premier League. Who's going to win first? And I forgot who the guy was before me. Who was one of the other winless teams?
Leeds.
It wasn't
Newcastle.
Leeds. Huh?
Newcastle won.
Newcastle. I was at Newcastle. Yeah. Newcastle. It was a guy.
Burnley were another. They got the first.
Yeah, it was a Newcastle fan. He looked like Southern Asian, Indian or Pakistani heritage or something. I wasn't sure exactly. So he spoke for a while, and then they came to me, and then I was able to, give my things. I posted the video, so with the.
Right, I'll check that out, Ken.
Yeah, posted a video. It's probably still up on Peacock for 2 days. I think they have it up for 7 days, and it disappears. So basically, I recorded it. I tried to figure out, okay, is there any way to actually snag the video? And you can't snag the video. So I recorded it off my computer. I have a tripod. So I have a tripod that I bought for my daughter that has a bracket that you can put the cell phone on. So I can put the cell phone, up here and hold it. So basically I messed around with the tripod. So I had it full screen. Then I just did a trial recording and then just pressed play. And that's how I recorded it off there. Because otherwise you can't record it and it will disappear. It's only up for a week and then it's not archived. It just disappears. So I just recorded my segment and posted that.
Right.
So they asked, okay, hey, yeah. Norwich isn't going to win. What do they have to do? They got to score goals. Then I gave the little introduction about, I'm here on behalf of the AmeriCanaries, the 600 members. I said we proudly support 4 members of the Norwich City women's team. And then I also said I'm a member of the Canaries Trust that I know Mark and I are members. Are you a member of the Canaries Trust?
No.
Okay. So I mentioned that. And then I says, okay. And then they asked a question. And I talked about basically what I thought they needed to do, which is totally change their formation and who they needed to bring in. And
who do they need to bring in?
Well, I wanted them to bring in Todd, but there's something going on with Cantwell. I'm not sure what's going on. And I mentioned Dow, and Dow started. I was like, wow. Yeah, I mentioned him. We talked a little about Rashisha and Solis. A little bit, and so basically you have to change the formation, and bring in guys with speed and creativity. They did that. Now we have like 10 minutes. So they did that on Sunday. It was a better formation. There was
they didn't bring in anyone. Well, they brought Rashika in, but McLean and Dal, why Dal?
Yeah, Kieran Dal. Huh?
When you said Dal then before.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started.
He started.
Oh, Dal. Sorry.
Yeah, Kieran Dal. Yeah, he started. He
started.
He barely played. He barely played. So I I like what I'd seen from him before. Rashisha and the winger, that was like a weird sort of a thing. It's like, well, we're gonna be. It's not like 5 at the back. It'll be 3 at the back, and then we'll put Aaron's on the right hand side, and we'll have Rashisha over there. Yeah, they went for it. They seemed more offensive. They seemed quicker. That seemed like they had some creativity.
They were definitely putting more effort in. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, they had more effort. It was actually exciting. I mean, watching the first half, I says, this is anyone's game. This is anybody can win this. And I was like, you know what? This is going to be like a goal comes out of nowhere, a thunderbolt goal or something like that. Wound up not being that, but having the 3 goals in 5 minutes, was.
Yeah, it was incredible, wasn't it?
4 actually, I think when it came down to it.
Why? What was the other one?
Well, because it was the 3 goals were 56, 58, and 60. So 3 goals in 4 minutes.
Oh, 4 minutes. We thought you meant 4 goals. We thought you meant
4 goals.
Yeah.
Every
2 minutes.
Right.
But it's after the Leeds had gone ahead. I mean, we still had 30 minutes, didn't we, to create something? And we, in the end, Krul was just lumping it down the middle, which is the complete opposite of what's been Farke's philosophy. It's like they completely lost the plot. He was launching it forward on to Pookie, who was being marked by a 6'5" centre half. I don't think Pookie's headed the ball in his life. So they lost their way, and it was frustrating in the end.
A lot of the Twitter. I don't know how much. I mean, I follow a lot of people on Norwich Twitter, and I've never seen such unanimity, whatever. Let's try that. Unanimous school of thought on what people, what they thought about what's going on, what needs to change. So
I tell you what, lads. One thing that this season has highlighted to me emphatically is how good Oliver Skip was last season.
Oh my God!
Yeah. And he's been good. I know Tottenham are having a bad time. They've just sucked the manager today, but the games I've seen, he's been playing really well for them.
Oh yeah.
But why? I can't understand. What he does is simple. He protects the back four, and he doesn't do any special passing or anything. He's just short passes. Why there aren't more players who can play to that level? Because he's not doing anything out of the ordinary. Why there aren't more professional footballers who can play a defensive midfield role? I mean, Norman's impressed me since he's come here.
Right.
But if they didn't have Norman, I've seen McLean trying to play that role loads of times, and he can't do it. And it just amazes me how there aren't more like Jorginho at Chelsea and Fernandinho at Man City. They're all excellent at it. Right, but there's not that many of them.
Yeah, so I think Norwich is clearly lacking that. Whoever they put, if it's Norman, whoever they're putting next to him is, if it's Reece Malou or if it's McLean, I'm just not sure they're the right fit.
They're not good enough for the Premier League.
And then Gilmore, I don't know where he is. He's someone's
it's a strange one with him as well as Todd Campbell, and both of them will make a big difference.
Yeah,
with Gilmore, I think he was playing in more holding role, and that's not the role he plays for Scotland, and it isn't the role he played for Chelsea either. He's got to give him a bit more freedom because he's more creative than McLean will ever be, and he's more creative than Reece Malou will ever be.
Right.
He's got.
You think like a number 10 role would work for him? A number 10 role, the guy in the middle who's.
Yeah, maybe. I think they're more flat. It suit Campbell. As I say, I don't know what's going on with Campbell. I know it said personal problems, but.
Yeah, I don't know. That's really where I did mention that I'd like to see Todd playing, and I noted that he played the under 23s. He scored a goal, so there's something going on. I don't know. Somebody on Twitter made a statement that he had mental health issues, and Todd came out and said that is not as what's going on with me.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But then he basically said, no, that's not it. But he also then didn't go, And if you do have mental health issues, here's a good place. He didn't, say, hey, here's support or here's a phone number or something. But he basically, that's not what's
mental
going
health
on with me. But he didn't say what's happening, and no one really knows what's happening. When I heard about this, I actually thought maybe he was going to be the gay footballer because they announced that there was someone who was going to be coming out as gay. So I thought, okay, maybe that's what's going on.
That was the Australian, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Australian one. And honestly, Norwich is a club where if a guy came out as gay, that would be one of the best clubs to do it just because of the structure that's in place and how supportive they appear to be.
It's not an offense to be gay, is it? I think that
no, but there I think certain clubs that wouldn't be as the fans and wouldn't be in the club wouldn't necessarily be as welcome, and it's like Norwich is like, so that didn't happen. I thought, okay, I would have been.
We missed his energy.
Yeah, which his energy, his creativity, his pace. So I really think that. So they went. This is the first time. What is it? It's like 3-4-1-2. Is that what they're playing?
Yeah, more or less. With the 4 being Aaron's and
right. I mean, it was interesting. I just it was better than what we've seen before. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know.
Sunday they were just playing a back 4 with Adams, with Aaron's and Ahmed Delhi as the left back, which was an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I read and probably agreed with it that they put him at left back to try and keep hold of Rapinoe, whatever his name is, the guy who scored the first goal.
Well, they haven't found a good left back yet. That seems.
No, I went to the Everton game. I was back home in September and went to the Everton game, and they had Williams at left back, and he didn't play.
Is that you at the TV, Mark?
No,
I don't think so. I mean, Lindsay hasn't turned up the volume.
All right. There's just kind of loud in the background. Yeah, they haven't found a left back.
No.
Matt, you're kind of dark right now.
He's right-footed for a start-off.
Mm-hmm.
So every time the ball came to him against Everton, he was just turning and passing it back. And there was one run he went on when he ran with Ben Godfrey. It was fast. And Williams actually out sprinted Godfrey. And I was amazed. I thought, well, why don't you do it more often? Other than that, he didn't break into a sweat. It was like watching Kenny McLean.
Yeah, so
anyway.
That's clearly a weakness. So what do you think needs to happen going forth? We're now on 42, so we're going to see how we can wrap this up. Do you like?
As I said when we first came on, I don't think they're going to get rid of Farker, and I'm glad.
Do you think they should get rid of him?
No, I don't know. Like I say, he doesn't go from being the Messiah 2 months ago to being a bad football manager, does he? Last season, I know it's a completely different game in the Championship. It's
right.
A hell of a lot easier.
But the stats, they said something like Norwich had gone 32 games in the Premier League without a win.
I think it's only 20. I think it's 20. Last season to this season, I think it's just 20.
I thought they said something like 32 on the broadcast, and I was stunned.
I don't know what that is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and count all the last 2 years ago. And
I was
the number I had heard was 20.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I saw that.
But Webber gets all the plaudits for being brilliant at what he does. But I read all the time that he's in charge of the transfers. I can't believe that Webber is deciding which players are coming to the club. If he is, then in my eyes, the ones they brought in this year, I don't think any of them. I haven't really seen Zolis. Billy Gilmore's up to it, but I don't think the others are of a good enough quality, to be honest. And that's the problem. We got rid of Buendia, who's maybe struggled to settle in at Villa, but he's still a brilliant footballer. Mm-hmm. And we miss him so much, and we miss Skip so much from last season.
Right.
And I think if Skip wasn't there, we probably wouldn't have won the league, to be honest.
True.
Because we struggled in a lot of games.
My impression is that the players that they've brought in, it's like when the NBA drafts potential as opposed to the production at that. It's like they've picked up guys with potential, and then they let guys go who are Premier League quality. Buendia, obviously, Skip. And let's not forget Alex Tete. Tete played a lot. He may not everyone's favorite, but he played in the Premier League a lot, and he played lots of different positions. So
yeah, he did.
You have
a brilliant servant in Norwich.
Yeah, it seems like veteran leadership is sorely lacking. You have Grant Hanley, and I don't know who else.
Yeah,
to give you some sort of veteran leadership, and that seems
they
really
reckon Gibson's lacking. A good man leader, Ben Gibson. But again, when they signed him after the season's loan, I thought he's lovely at bringing it out from the back when they're playing football in the Championship, but you don't get that time in the Premier League, and he looks a bit of a cart horse in the Premier League. I've thought.
Mm-hmm.
Very unfortunate. The step up is so big, and I think maybe someone at the club underestimated it. Dowell isn't a Premier League player either. If he was, he'd still be at Everton.
Mm-hmm. What did you guys think of Kabak? Or Kabak?
He was playing in the Champions League quarter-final only a few months ago, wasn't he, for Liverpool?
Yeah.
He's a hothead. Like he lost on the run. I think it was against Everton. It was against Everton when I was there. He did that 80-yard run with the ball and nearly went all the way.
Right.
He's tried that a few times recently. Unless you're making sure someone's going into your position. I mean, he was on one of those runs on Sunday when they took the ball. Phillips took the ball off him, didn't he? And next minute it was in the back of the net. He's and he gave the penalty away when I was there as well with a rash challenge. He's just he's Turkish, he's hot-headed, like all Eastern Europeans or Asians. But he's definitely got potential. But he needs to.
I was gonna say, be careful there. Like, okay. He's temperamental, like many people.
First and foremost, a centre half's there to defend. And
job one.
He needs to curb that attacking thoughts that he's going to go and score a goal to my liking. Mm-hmm. He wants to concentrate on keeping the ball at the other end. Aarons, brilliant. You can't knock Max Aarons. But with the loss of Skip and Buendia, it's changed the face of the side not for the better, unfortunately.
Right. Well, because Buendia and Pukki linked up so much with lots of their intricate passing and they don't have anybody other than Cantwell who will be able to do that, and he hasn't played. So then they're playing, what is it called? Route 1? Is that what it's called? Where you just bomb the ball and hope someone...
Yeah, that's what they were doing the last 20 minutes against Leeds.
Yeah, it's almost like hockey. Mark's the hockey was just dumping the puck into the zone. Is that...
Right? Dump and chase. Dump and chase.
Yeah, it's like that's sort of like what they're doing, and it doesn't work because Pukki isn't... That's not the player he is.
He's never headed the ball in his life. Some teams have had success with that. Jack Charlton had success with the Republic of Ireland. But they had the players to play that way of playing. They were all 6'6".
Everyone understands what is being said.
Who's that shouting now?
It's got to be. It's not my house.
Yeah, they've got to. If you're going to play that game, you've got to have the personnel for it, and Norwich certainly haven't. They were all bought into the club to play a passing game. Apart from Jordan Hugel, and I honestly thought Farke was going to keep him on board, and I thought he is not. He'll never be a Premier League player.
Yeah, I was surprised.
He did well in the Championship for us, but that's where he'll spend his playing career, I think.
All right, we're at minute 49, so let's wrap this up.
Thank you, guys. It was very nice.
Thank you so much, Matt.
Yeah.
I really appreciated hearing your perspective of a Norwich Scouser and who attended the Premier League mornings. Yeah, that's really interesting because I've never had the opportunity to do it here.
Right.
I ignored the opportunity to go down to Austin mostly because it was on a Saturday following Friday Night Football, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going 3-hour drive down there after.
That's the easy way out, Mark.
Yeah, well,
I'd had a skinful of ale on the Friday night and still gone up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go.
Well, my nights usually end about 1:30 on Fridays because of what I have to do as a coach. So,
right. Oh, you're a football coach.
Yeah, it's Texas.
Okay. Well, is it Brentford next week?
Yeah, it's Brentford. Yeah,
It's
Brentford.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for that one, but they're looking good as well.
Brentford, Southampton, Wolverhampton, Newcastle.
I watched Wolves today. Wolves look good again. They're on a good run. They haven't lost for 5 or 6 games now.
This is the run of five matches where everyone
we
thought
could win. We should be looking to win.
They're winnable.
Yeah,
winnable. Right. The 5 matches that are winnable, and I think that maybe the club is sort of waiting to see what happens after the 5 matches to decide what's going on. But the fan base is virtually unanimous in saying it's got to go. And some of the more positive fans in Norwich that are very active on Twitter, they're all saying the same thing. It's basically saying,
but they're the ones who are on social media saying the same things. But that's where people want to vent their fury. And he's got to go. He's got to go. Because there's people like me who don't want to vent.
Right.
Well, sure there's a lot of Norwich fans who don't want him to go.
And to back you, Matt, I mean, I guess my next question is who?
So what I did was
if you're gonna get rid of them, then who is going to replace? Now they're obviously now with some of the changes we're seeing around the game right now, there are some opportunities, but are they people that would come to Norwich?
Yeah,
and that's the $64 question, I think.
yeah,
our last 3 managers have all been unknowns, haven't they? Really, Lambert and Alex Neil. No one had heard of him south of the border.
Right.
And Lambert, and he was brilliant. He did a great job. But like the players, it's little old Norwich again. They leave for bigger pay packets, basically.
I don't know. I didn't see her.
Right. You need someone else to come in. I saw a lot of people talk about Steve Bruce as a former Norwich player, but I've also seen a lot of people going, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway,
he's had more clubs than Arnold Palmer, hasn't he?
She was very great.
That's a great quote.
Yeah.
That's
anyway,
great.
this phone's about to die.
Kids are like, can I get a hug from the show?
Thank you very much. I'll see you on the page.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. So this is recorded on Monday night. So those of you listening, this will be up on Tuesday. Thank you so much to Matt and to Mark, and let's hope we have more goals and a win against Brentford.
Can we please get more goals than podcasts?
Yes.
True. We now have more podcasts than goals. We'll have more podcasts.
Right.
Before the match, we'll have more podcasts than goals. Which
all right.
Not good.
Cheers, guys.
All right.
Thanks
Later.
so much, guys. All right. Bye-bye.
Or you can sit in the chair at least, and then you can sit.